Yeah, before Ethan joins us, this next segment is brought to you by Buckeye State Credit Union. Today's episode is brought to you by Buckeye State Credit Union. If you are unfamiliar with them, let me introduce you to the financial friend you didn't know you needed until now. Buckeye State Credit Union is a local brand that offers a wide range of products from checking accounts to home equity lines of credit and auto loans. They have some of the lowest rates around and are committed to serving Northeast Ohio. The Cleveland location is in Shaker Heights, but there are 5 brick-and-mortar locations across the state. Buckeye State Credit Union is here to help make your life easier. They make banking more convenient, always putting the customers first, so you leave feeling cared for, valued, and respected. Connected, simply, and adapt. Those are the core values that make Buckeye State Credit Union the right choice for you. For more information, head over to buckeye.org for more information. Buckeye State Credit Union, your money simplified.
Let's go. Buckeye Credit Union. All right.
What up, Ethan?
What's going on, guys? How you guys doing?
We're doing all right, man. Well, give us your percentage chance that the Cavs will come back and win this series.
10.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
10?
I was hoping you'd be maybe more optimistic than I am, but you're not.
I'm a little higher than 10.
Why 10? Tell us why 10.
I think it's going to be difficult, right? There has only been 5 teams in NBA history to come back, win down 2-0 in a series after losing the first 2 games at home. So history is not on their side, but I also think there's still true concern about the viability of DeAndre Hunter, Darius Garland, and Evan Mobley returning for the Cavs for the remainder of the series. And also we understand that Donovan Mitchell is not at 100% dealing with a calf strain. And I don't think you can continue to expect him to keep playing as Herculean as he has over the first 2 games of the series. He's already averaged 60 or taken 60 shots in his first 2 games and scored 81 points over those 2 games. It's been ridiculous.
No, he's been awesome. It's a shame that performance is gone to waste, Ethan. But I'm curious. I go to a lot of games, Ethan. You're in the locker room more than I am. You're at shoot-arounds, pregame. You go to some road games. How different was the vibes, for lack of a better word, in the locker room last night compared to anything else you've experienced this season with them?
Completely different. It was somber. Like, even in the regular season when this Cavs team would lose, even though we know it was only 18 times, they would be joyful still. This didn't feel like that. Like, they didn't have their TVs on. They usually are watching games in the background. Obviously, the NBA playoffs are going on. They usually have those games going on in the background. Those TVs were turned off. Like, players are giving 3, 5-word answers. It was not a good vibe going into the locker room and understanding that this team has been punched in the mouth, punched in the gut. Whatever you want to say, the count for them is at 5, and they're trying to figure out if they can get back up or if they're going to stay standing or what's going to happen next.
Ethan, Mike asked me this earlier this morning, so I'm going to ask you, was this a collapse or was this a comeback?
I think this was a comeback. It felt like more of a slow leak of the things that went wrong throughout the game, right? And obviously we understood that the Cavs were playing at the Indiana Pacers pace. And I don't think that's exactly how they wanted to in the game, but it felt like what they needed to. And then in the fourth quarter, they just didn't have enough energy to maintain what they were able to do when it comes to the level of physicality, poise, focus, and that led to the turnovers that we saw in the final minute of the game that ultimately turned it. So it felt like a slow leak rather than a collapse because minute after minute in the fourth quarter, it kept creeping in more doubt of the reality of them being able to close out the game, especially with Tyrese Halliburton, who wasn't good for a majority of the game, having 11 of his 19 points in that fourth quarter.
I didn't realize it was 11 and 19. Damn, that makes it even worse, Ethan. Thanks for bringing our mood down even further than it already was earlier. Ethan, I am curious. When you look back at this big picture, it's a game that will live in infamy in Cleveland fans and in NBA postseason history because of the nature of how it ended. But what's the one play down the stretch in that last 48 seconds where so many things went wrong for Cleveland and then simultaneously went right for Indiana? What's the one play out of that stretch that you're going to remember as That's the one that I can't get over.
I think it's the Aaron Nesmith putback dunk off the free throw that allowed them to get back within distance, and it just jolted their offense back into what they understood it to be, right? It felt like they needed that confidence boost, and it was huge down the line, and it set up what happened afterwards, right? The turnovers from the ATOs, the Tyrese Halliburton rebound off his own free throw attempt. I think it set the tone for, hey, we're still in this and we can take this away from them because they're not either paying attention or they just don't have the firepower or the just energy to keep up at this point. So if we can just sneak by, if we can keep up, if we can stay with it, we can take this game, even though we've been trailing for a majority of it. And that's what Kenny Atkinson was talking about after the game, saying that that's probably what stings the most about this one, is that they outplayed them for 47 minutes. Man.
No, it stings. It absolutely stings.
What's your best guess? Who plays in Game 3 and who sits?
I would hope everybody plays, but I think the reality of the situation is Darius Garland's been out for 2 weeks, and if he wasn't able to play in a must-win scenario in Game 2, that it's still unlikely how he's going to be able to react with his toe injury, and it's more so how his game impacts that as well. Evan Mobley was gutted that he wasn't able to play in Game 2. I know he's going to give it everything he can, but he's been moving very gingerly, even on the sidelines last night, getting up to try and celebrate with his teammates. He wasn't moving right. So those are the two guys that I have the most concern about going forward. Obviously, DeAndre Hunter with the dislocated thumb isn't a great sign, but I feel like there's more viability in him trying to get back, especially when they have a little bit of a break, but going into Game 3 in Indiana.
You were at shoot-around yesterday, and I know we didn't see Evan, DeAndre, and DG, but Darius was on the treadmill, according to your guys' subtext, doing interval runs of some sort. I don't know how much you can see through, because I know it's kind of blocked off. Like, I don't know how much you can see of Darius going through the treadmill workout, but how did he look? Did you get the impression, looking at him in that circumstance, in that situation, that he was going to play last night, or was he running with a limp? I wasn't there, so I'm curious what your eyes actually told you from seeing him on the treadmill in that situation.
It was telling me that he was trying to condition his body to be able to keep up with the Pacers, right? It necessarily wasn't about the injury itself. It was about trying to test whether his body would be able to withstand the toll of the physicality, the speed, all these things that the Pacers play with. It wasn't an indication to me that he was going to play. It was more so like, well, where is he at in his recovery process? Because we hadn't seen him in shoot-around. He wasn't able to go through that yesterday. And we know that his game is dictating on constant movement and twitchiness. So it really wasn't. But if we didn't see him on the court, it wasn't giving me a better indication that he was going to be able to play, especially with how just his game revolves around being at the helm of the offense.
Ethan, we've lauded Kenny Atkinson all season long. He wins Coach of the Year. We've done nothing but show him love. Jason talked about he's got to take some of the blame. I think we all agree with him. The inbounds play, just a lot of different things. And it seems like he hasn't done a particularly good job in this series. How much do you blame him for where they are right now?
I don't know if blame's the right word, but I think there were definitely adjustments that could have been made. Like in the first game, you realized that Donovan Mitchell had to do so much for the team, and they were absolutely exhausted after game one, and still it felt like they leaned into that a little bit even heavier, especially obviously with DeAndre, Darius, and Evan being out. They shortened their rotations. They shortened their bench. And it hurt the Cavs in the long run because I feel like, and Kenny Atkinson mentioned this as a source of regret for him after last night's game, that if he would have continued to do what had gotten them to this point, that maybe Donovan, Ty, whoever was on the floor might have had a little bit more energy down the stretch to be able to pull off a little bit more of an effort because it felt like they just got sticky, they got stagnant, and even on that ATO that you mentioned, there were players flying around, but Donovan Mitchell admitted that one, he was cramping, and two, he physically couldn't move to get open on that play. And that's a source of conditioning. That's a source of just being worn out from taking 30 shots, 48 points in that last game.
What do you make of Ty Jerome in this series, in particular last night?
I think he's taken too many shots, too many ill-advised shots. He's taken 34 shots, I believe it is, over the first two games of the series. And last night it was, I know there's the Kobe line, like if you are missing, you got to keep shooting to get out of a slump. I think they just needed him to be a creator, to help Donovan get off the ball. I don't think they needed him to be the scorer last night, especially with Sam Merrill and Max Strus shooting the way that he did. I think he tried to do a little bit too much, and it cost not only him his energy, but it also costed the team down the stretch because Max Strus tried to lob him a ball down in the backcourt, and we saw how that panned out. So I just think Ty has made some ill-advised decisions, and it's been out of character for him. He's been a stable force, especially off the bench as a ball handler throughout the entire season. He was in the running for Sixth Man of the Year. I think you expect him to have a bounce back, especially as well as he played in the Miami series, but you need him to be better, especially if you're not going to have three of your top 7 guys out there.
How hurt do you think Donovan actually is, Ethan? I know post-game last night he told us he does have a calf strain. He will play in Game 3 on Friday. He hadn't received treatment before he talked to us. And it was a gutsy, heroic performance. Obviously, not enough considering the Cavs lost. But how injured do you actually think Donovan is?
I mean, I think it honestly dates back to last year. Unfortunately for him, right? Because we know the lingering knee injury that he was dealing with going into the playoffs last year. He didn't get surgery on that. He didn't deal with, and he let it heal naturally. And the plan was basically to get him off the floor as much as possible throughout the regular season so that he could manage these injuries and be ready for the playoffs. And now the workload has increased. He really didn't have a ramp-up process, especially when you know that he didn't play in the final few games of the regular season, and now he's putting all this extra exhaustion not only on his knee but on his calf. And the fact of the matter is we know how dangerous a calf injury can be and how quickly it can turn into an Achilles injury. So I do think that it's something to monitor, it's something to worry about when it comes to Donovan, but he's shown you that if there's one player on this team that you know is going to be available, that you know is going to give it their all, it's going to be him. And unless he feels like it's going to be detrimental to the next season, to his career, he's going to keep trying to push it. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing at this point.
Ethan, assuming they lose this series, which obviously, as we all said, looks pretty likely right now, I'm thinking about next year already. And if there's two types of fans. There's some fans that they want to go to games and watch games and be entertained, and they want their team to win that day. And those fans will be fine, and they'll enjoy the season. But a lot of fans are just like, I want to win a championship, and if we can't, then, well, maybe I don't care as much. And how do you get those fans to care and pay attention to the regular season after the way this season looks like it's going and ending?
I think you show them the tape from the regular season of this year. Like, there were so many positives to come out of this. Like, 64-18 is nothing to sneeze at. Second best franchise record in history. I think when you talk about a team that is creating a new narrative for itself, separating itself from a lot of the LeBron James legacy of previous years, I think that's exactly who this team wants to be, who this team is. And unfortunately for them, it's been a cause of injuries, not having Darius to start in Game 1, not having DeAndre and Evan Mobley in Game 2. And you're not trying to make excuses, but the reality of it is you still haven't seen this team at full strength outside of the first-round series in Miami against an opponent that actually could give them a fight. We look back to the Boston Celtics series last year, and we understand that the Cavs were thinking then, well, maybe if we were healthy, we could have gave them a run for our money. they're going to have those same types of questions, maybe even at a higher capacity after this series, whenever it wraps up, whether it's 4, 5, 6, or 7 games.
The problem is, though, it's 2 years in a row that you've had a lot of injuries. You got some injury-prone players. I'm going to be going into next year saying, well, even if they have a great regular season, I'm worried, guys are going to get hurt again. So, yeah, if everybody's healthy, maybe it'd be different. But if it keeps happening every year, eventually that doesn't mean anything.
I think 2 years, it shouldn't be an indictment on that. There are some players that are injury prone, and you can make that statement. But I do think that the reality of it is you have so many high-level, high-talent players that have worked together, played together, and cultivated a relationship to the point that it's not about wins and losses in the regular season, as unfortunate as that may be to the common fan. It is about the playoffs, and they're still trying to figure out the viability of how to make themselves the best version going forward. And especially Kenny Atkinson should learn from this experience and tweak the plan that he came in with this season that felt like it was working. Obviously, the minute allocation was the biggest one, but now it feels like it's hurting them because nobody played 40 minutes last night, and the Cavs looked absolutely gassed, and we're not able to keep up with the Indiana Pacers down the stretch.
Here's what we know, Ethan. The current iteration of the Cavs can be and is a very successful regular season team. We don't know. We don't have the answer. We don't have a true definitive yes or a true definitive no on whether or not this iteration, the core 4 plus surrounding pieces, is good enough to win a championship. And we may not get
right
that
now,
answer.
they're not. That
Well,
may change, no?
If fully healthy, we don't know. I'm saying like as.
But that doesn't.
I'm looking big
All right,
picture,
go ahead.
not in this exact micro or macro, whatever that is. We don't know. What I do know is they're going to play Game 3 on Friday night, regardless of whether or not they have DeAndre, Evan, and DG. Of the guys who played last night, the guys we know will be in the lineup on Friday, outside of Donovan and Jarrett, which of the role guys has to have another monster game if the Cavs are somehow going to find a way to steal Game 3 on the road?
I think you saw it in Game 2, Mike. Max Strus and Sam Merrill got to light it up.
Can you ask
somebody else?
Ethan, can you ask for more from those two, though? Like, is it possible to get more than you got? Think what they combined for, 34 points?
No. I mean, they had 9
points?
of the 11 threes.
Yeah.
9 of 11 threes made were from the hands of those two last night. So I don't think you can ask more of them. I think you have to ask more of Max down the stretch when it comes to focus and that pass that he made that could be questionable. Obviously, there's two different sides to that coin with Ty Jerome not sealing off his man. And I know we had that conversation the other day, Mike, but I think, again, you have to have somebody else hit shots, right? It can't be 9 of 11 made threes are coming from two players. Donovan was 1 of 7, right? Isaac Okoro wasn't hitting shots. Dean Wade wasn't hitting shots. You need somebody else to fill in that because this Cavs team has been poor when they are shooting 30% or lower from three-point range this season. And that has continued in this series against the Indiana Pacers. So as much as they don't want to say that they live and die by the three-point shot, they live and die by the three-point shot. And they need somebody to step up humongously, especially if DeAndre, Darius, and Evan are all going to be out for Game 3 as well.
Ethan, will the Cavs ever win a championship with Donovan Mitchell?
Oh, that's a good question. I think they can. I think they can with this roster.
But do you think they will? You said they can. Will they do it? Let's go. Get on the record here.
I think they will. I think they will. It will likely have to come. It will have to come either next year or the year after. Because obviously we know the stipulations of Donovan Mitchell's contract, and we also know that how the players around him are built, right? We know Darius, Garland, and Evan Mobley are in extended contracts, but the players around them, as we're talking about Sam Merrill, Max Strus, and Ty Jerome, guys that are going to be or are on expiring contracts this year, it's going to be extremely important that they make something shake in the next 2 years if they want to get to a championship. And I think they have the pieces to do it. Again, it just forms, they have to be healthy to do it. And that's been the key word for every team in the playoffs, and it's no different for the Cavs.
Thank you, Ethan. We appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Ethan.
See you, buddy.
Thank you for having me. See
Ethan
ya.
thinks the Cavs will win a championship with Donovan Mitchell. I'm going to admit I'm prisoner of the moment to some degree. I don't think the Cavs are winning a championship with Donovan Mitchell. That's no knock on him at all. I'm not blaming him, but I don't think this team's going to win a championship in the next few years.
That's not a 10-second answer to that question.
Yeah, there's a lot of interweaved parts in that.
What are the weak parts? I mean, you either think they're going to win a championship or
I
you
think
don't.
they're going to have a better chance next year because Boston's going to break up this summer.
You
Yeah.
think so?
Yes, that's already out there.
All I know is Boston, without Porzingis, who's a really good player,
Lost the
won a
game one.
championship last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Cavs, I know they got more injuries than that now, but that was just game 2. In game 1, they had one injury. And
If you're asking, will the Cavs win a championship with Donovan Mitchell as their best player?
Yeah.
No, they won't.
Yeah. It'll be
If-
because Evan Mobley becomes.
And that's what I'm saying. This isn't a 10-second answer. If Evan Mobley continues to grow,
Yeah.
I thought by the end of these playoffs, Evan Mobley would be the most dominant player on that hasn't
Yeah.
happened.
No.
With the ankle, everything else,
Yeah.
Donovan has been carrying this team still.
Yeah.
You can only ask guys to do what they're capable of doing, right?
Right.
Donovan is giving you everything he's got.
Yeah,
The facts remain he is an undersized guard.
that's right.
And it's hard for a guy like that to carry a team to a championship,
That's right.
which is what they are now asking him to do because of the injury situation around him, at least for this year.
We'll continue this conversation. I want to continue in a minute. Let's get Earl in with a read here.
Yeah, let's hear